I come to you today with some awful news. On the plus side, you probably already knew this news, but your EUC, when you open it, kinda sucks. Fortunately, there are some upgrades that you can do to your wheel, and dare I say, should do to your wheel, in order to make it rideable. There's only a few EUCs that are released right now that are pretty much turnkey right out of the box. For example, the inmotion V14 Adventure, and pretty much anything that comes from leaperkim is pretty much turnkey because it has pads. So if you don't own a wheel from one of those brands, then that's the number one thing that you're gonna have to do with your EUC. Upgrade number one, get pads. The pads that come with the Begode Extreme are considered overall pretty good by many. I think they are okay at best. The problem is they're one giant cohesive unit, and so you can't adjust for locking in your foot. On top of that, this is separated into two separate little areas here, so you're not able to evenly distribute the pressure from your shin across the whole way here. It is nice that you're able to lock in the bottom portion of your foot with this here, but considering that the angle is not adjustable, it's only adjustable up and down, I find myself having the weight all being pushed right up against this corner here. And it's pretty uncomfortable. So if you have a Begode Extreme, get yourself a fresh set of pads. Personally, I go with the BBQ Prince pads, and I've found that they are an outstanding asset to a Begode Extreme. This is available in numerous options across a lot of different wheels. For the Begode Extreme, the battery boxes are very well protected by a thick layer of metal. So really, it's not so much a matter of protecting your wheel from, say, battery damage, but much more in this case, it's a matter of protecting your investment. In the same way that you protect your phone with getting a case, your phone is honestly probably pretty rugged, but in order to protect its resale value and just the odd scrapes and dings, you want to get something that covers your wheel. As far as pads are concerned, the world is your oyster. You can 3D print them yourself, or you can have them done through companies such as Clark Pads or Grizzly. I found that with the BBQ Print pads, my wheel is very well protected and I have a lot of control with the pads that are included. So big thumbs up on that. The number two most important upgrade that you can get for an EUC is pedals. Honestly, the Begode pedals that are included with the Extreme are pretty good. And if you have a Begode or Extreme Bull EUC, you can really get away with these, and they're good because they have actual spikes on them. Unfortunately, if you have a kingsong, leaperkim, or an inmotion EUC, their pedals are just bumps and they're not spikes, and so you're still risking some foot slippage. I experienced that definitely in the other wheels that I try, and I'm not a huge fan of it. For that reason, I've got E-Rides pedals here. This is the Wolverine variety. I like the E-Rides pedals because they're CNC cut and the spikes that they have are good and sharp, and so you're able to really lock in your shoe on there. On top of that, you have adjustable height heel and toe risers. This is huge, guys. You can get a small, medium, or large for either one of these. It's included. It's included with your purchase. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're so stupid. You installed these backwards. Not so. Because of this cutout here, I'm able to flip this up, and they're intentionally made to be completely reversible, so you can mount it however you want. That's just the way I did it, and I like it that way. Now, there's definitely a whole lot of different pedals that you can get. There's a whole market out there for these, but the reason why I really like E-Rides over every other brand is the fact that these heel and toe risers are adjustable. You can't get it that way with really any other brand. I've been searching and they're all pretty much flat. Why would you bother getting something beyond the standard Begode pedals unless you have sharper spikes and the heel and toe risers? These are the best in the market in my opinion. The next upgrade that everybody needs is suspension upgrades. There's only a few EUCs out there that have what I would consider a perfect suspension, and those would be probably any of the leaperkim ones. Their suspensions are really, really good, and frankly, they better be perfect because you can't upgrade them. This, however, is upgradable. I'm currently waiting on the suspension upgrade that's coming in all of the batch 2 and onward Begode Extremes that this wheel really should have been shipped with batch 1 in. I put in a 1,000 pound spring, which changes the game. If you have a spring suspension, you really want to get it dialed into your weight and something that is comfortable for you. If you're into trail riding or street riding, you're gonna wanna fine tune the exact spring weight that fits your body the best. One size doesn't fit all in this case. And so for example, with the V14 Adventure, they've got a really nice spring, but it's only one spring. That doesn't leave a whole lot of room for customization, but the world is your oyster and you can get any size spring that you want from the third-party market, and so it's really not a huge deal. Another huge suspension upgrade that you can get for your wheel is the linkage. Let's be honest, Begode doesn't make the very best suspensions on the market. Nope, that's being too nice. Begode makes bad suspensions. I'm sorry, it's just a fact. If you want to get yourself a top-of-the-line suspension linkage that makes your ride really cushy, check out these pictures right here. Unfortunately, Kingsong has the patent on that style of suspension, which to me is kind of crazy because how can you have a patent on basic geometry? It's just weird. Then again, I never passed my bar exam for the Chinese intellectual property laws, so I don't know. Whatever it is, you can get it in the aftermarket and you can have a much better ride with a better suspension linkage. For our next upgrade, we have a mirror. Everybody, whenever they're riding in the street, needs to have a mirror so they can see behind them. It's just not safe to have to crane your neck really hard one direction or another when you're trying to see if it's safe for you to change a lane. Now, that might be just fine and dandy if you're in a car, but when you're on an EUC and those fine, minute movements can really make a big difference in the way you're riding, you could potentially twist the wheel and get yourself in a wreck. Also, it's just not comfortable. So that's why you should definitely have a mirror. This one is called the EVT Safe Zone and it's about $40-ish on Amazon. Totally worth it. It is the most expensive one on the market that I'm aware of, but it has a humongous mirror and it's infinitely adjustable. What some people like to do though, is that they have a hand mirror. It goes on their wrist. So whenever they want to see what's behind them, they just do that and they are able to look on their wrist and see what's behind them. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of that. I find that kind of annoying, but to each his own, and there's a lot of people that are really happy with that option. Also super important is having a dashboard. Now I know we're not talking about cars here, so what am I talking about? I'm talking about something on your wrist. Everybody needs to have the ability to see when you're going 35 miles an hour plus at a moment's notice without having to look down below you at the screen on your wheel. You need to know what your speed is, you need to know how much battery you have, and also your PWM safety margin percentage. Now personally, on my Garmin watch, I use the app called Wheel Dash. Wheel Dash is revolutionary for EUCs because it automatically, without the use of a phone, connects directly to your wheel. And as you can see, it only takes a few seconds. It connects to the closest EUC to it automatically. It's magical. With Wheel Dash, it updates in real time your speed, your battery percentage, your voltage, your temperature, and this outer ring here is your PWM safety margin percentage. This is absolutely huge, and I'm able to update everything in real time so I can just glance at my watch real quick so I know that I'm being safe. Now, some riders have an Android Wear OS watch or an Apple Watch. Those are really good to interface with either DarknessBot or EUC World. They're fantastic. And the best thing is that you can set alarms and it'll vibrate whenever your alarm is being hit. And if you have a Bluetooth speaker on top of that, it'll also start screaming at you at the exact same time that your EUC World alarms are going off. It's fantastic. Now, if you don't have a smartwatch that you can use, I highly recommend you get a strap that holds your phone in on your wrist. That's super common to see also. And then you can have EUC World or DarknessBot always displaying on your wrist, and it pretty much replaces the need for a phone, and they're really cheap on Amazon. Highly recommend you get something for your wrist. Our next important update is going to be getting yourself a fast charger. I've got two here. This one is from Alien Rides and it goes to 8 amps. This one here is the VersaVolt prototype that was given to me for feedback purposes by Free Motion Shop. Thank you, Free Motion. An adjustable rate charger is critical when you're trying to juice up. Say if you've got a really long ride You're not going to be able to do it with the stock charger. It's a fact of life. And sadly, EUC companies don't give you the option of having a adjustable rate charger built in, because apparently it costs them way too much money to put in a potentiometer. It's too big of a task. So instead, they're going to do one single current rate and that's it. However, this one from Alien Rides goes from 2 amps to 8 amps. The one from Free Motion is able to go on any EUC, and you just tune it to whatever voltage it is that you need, and it gets it done. Sadly, these things are pretty loud. They sound like a freight train. And so the stock chargers that I've seen with Begodes are pretty quiet. And so that is one big drawback to having one of these chargers. But we are dealing in the world of 134 volts plus these days. And so you kind of have to expect to have some pretty loud chargers as well. You gotta have a fan going, sorry. The very last thing that every EUC owner needs is a Bluetooth speaker. Now personally, I use the Tribit Stormbox 2, but really anything that is extremely loud will get the job done. The only EUC out on the market right now that has extremely loud speakers is the Kingsong S19, which has proven to not be a very popular wheel. The reason why you need to get a speaker is just so you can connect to EUC World or Darkness Bot. You need to have those alarms, so when you hit that threshold, whether it's your speed limit or your PWM safety margin limit, it's gonna start screaming at you, and you need to be able to hear it. If you're big into group rides, I recommend getting yourself a Cardo. When I was attending the 2023 Southern California EUC tour, that was a super common thing. So what's a Cardo, you might ask? That's a Bluetooth headset that connects to your helmet, and it's also an intercom. So anyone that also has that intercom system is able to communicate with you, and you can talk with each other back and forth. Best of all, you can hear those alarms from EUC World when you're pushing your wheel too hard. Now that I've listed all the must-have upgrades in my opinion, what did I miss? Let me know in the comments, because I want to know if there's something that is super critical that I just didn't think of. If you're in the market for a brand new EUC, make sure you check out the description, and there's a ton of affiliate links and discount codes so you can get the best price possible on your next purchase. And of course, if you want to be kept up to date with all the latest and greatest EUC news and reviews, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.